I'm Natasha Kaufman, and welcome to my podcast, Don't Just Talk, Say Something, Lessons on 20 Years of Business. Over the past 2 decades of running my public relations firm, NKPR, I'm so grateful to have met, worked with, and learned from so many talented industry leaders. And I'm so excited to be able to share their stories and life lessons with all of you on this podcast. Today, I'm excited to have my dear friends and clients, Briar Lange and Rick Kaczmarek from the Bloor-Yorkville business improvement area on the podcast. As NKPR's longest clients, Rick and Briar have been with us through major evolutions, and I'm so honored and privileged to have been able to grow and learn with them. On this episode, we discuss the strength in long-term partnerships, adapting and being open to change, and how opportunities are whatever you make of them. Here's our conversation. Briar and Rick, welcome to the podcast. Do you remember, I remember when we first met, but do you remember 15 years ago and our first time meeting?
Yep.
You do?
I do.
Okay, you first, Briar.
We were doing an RFP, and it was Rick's first year at the BIA, because he's been with us now for 15 years. And we were aware of your firm through the grand opening of David's Shoes.
That's
when
right.
They did a major renovation on the premium corner that they had at Bay and Bloor. We were introduced to your staff as far as the opening party, and I was impressed by their tenacity, I would say, and professionalism in getting that event and getting the store launch off the ground. And then I can let Rick describe. When we went to the RFP process, we definitely had your firm on the list of ones to approach.
Yeah, so I definitely remember. I think it was maybe 2006 or 2007. I received an invitation from NKPR to go to an event at David's on Bloor, and I didn't really know who NKPR was, but I thought, since this is one of our retail flagship stores in the area, I'll go. And I saw how Natasha and your staff were executing the event with such passion that I went over and introduced myself. We exchanged business cards. You came in for a meeting, and the rest is history. You know, we did the RFP, and KPR won out, and it's been 15 years of some great work and experiences together.
Totally.
I just wanted to add that when you did come to do your presentation in our boardroom back in the Manulife Center, I was impressed by the fact that you felt strongly about representing products and things that you believed in. So there was a genuine feel to the presentation that you would back who you were representing, and you had to feel good about it as well. And I think that sat with me quite well, because I always felt if I had to sell something, I had to believe in what I was selling. So I was on the same page with your thoughts on that, and that was appreciated.
I love that you said that, because it's interesting. That's the entire reason I started my own firm. When I was working at an advertising agency and I started the PR department there, you're promoting everything, because you're just promoting whatever gets put on your desk, whatever they're working on. And I just felt that I wanted to pick and choose who I worked with and what I worked on. I think in PR, unless you're emotionally connected, passionate about what you're promoting, you just can't do it. And, I think part of the reason I've been in business for 20 years is exactly for that reason, because that still holds true today. I remember coming in for that pitch, and a lot of people don't realize that they don't necessarily see me as someone that's nervous. I was nervous. I remember that morning and feeling like I needed to calm myself down, because I was only in business at that point for 5 years. So I certainly had experience in my knowledge in my industry and understanding PR, but that confidence still wasn't there the way it would be, 20 years later. And I remember feeling nervous, excited. And then when you called us to say that we won the business, I was like, oh my, like it was such a highlight, because Bloor-Yorkville is my neighborhood. I'm there all the time. I'm passionate about the retailers that are there, and we've just absolutely loved working with you. How do you think our relationship has evolved, and maybe even what have we kind of learned over the last 15 years, and maybe some of the big milestones?
Well, I mean, we're learning together. Let's say that for sure. We've been growing along the way, and what you learn, we learn. And from the fact that our neighborhood has evolved. You're seeing what was once just upscale on Bloor Street flowing back through Yorkville Avenue, but we're always working with you to ensure that everyone feels welcome in the community. So we're learning as we go, and obviously we can have the discussion about the changes that have happened through social media, because we started with traditional types of promotions, and as I said, press releases, well, they're pretty much non-existent.
It's true.
We do
Remember
them,
the press
but-
releases we used to do like all the time?
And people, the audience and the consumer has evolved, because they're not going to necessarily to paper copy of anything anymore. It's all moved to digital. But through that process, we've learned with you guys as to what's working, what doesn't work. Each platform has evolved itself in that time. It starts off as one thing and ends up being another. So there's a real growth process for everybody in this.
Well, it's been interesting because I remember 15 years ago, we would have our PNC meetings, and we would have not a lot of participants. But I think because you guys do such a great job promoting the neighborhood, thinking about the neighborhood, social media, you now get so many people that actually participate. Rick, tell us a little bit about when we started talking about Instagram and what your initial sort of thought was, and how it's utilized today.
Well, I think we first started talking about Facebook, actually.
That's
way,
true. That's
way
true.
back.
You're right. You're
okay,
right.
so
you're right.
with Facebook, I mean, I kind of toyed with Facebook on my own in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then I could see that this was going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I thought we need to get NKPR on this, and I think from that standpoint, we became innovative, and we were the first BIA, and we're now definitely leaders in social media for any BIA in Canada, thanks to NKPR, with 3 platforms, with Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But we were definitely pioneers in the days of early Facebook, and I think it shows that we have developed that. And in turn now, Instagram is one of our leading platforms as well.
For sure. When Briar talks about press releases, I remember we did a press release every time there was a holiday, every time we had to make a major announcement about closures. It was always a press release, and we put it on the wire, and it was expensive. And now we tweet about it, and we get and we Instagram about it, and we get the same response. So it's just the evolution of, I think, how we use these tools and how we're able to sort of take those funds and put them towards other things that are really useful, creates that impact. The retail industry has changed a lot. It's evolved a lot. Maybe tell us a little bit about that evolution in Bloor-Yorkville.
Well, in retail as a whole, I think we've seen a dramatic shift to consumer demand for luxury brands, fine restaurants, self-care, and plush hotels. And I think it also is kind of going into marketing and social media as well, because there's been a significant change in the way we market. We still need to focus on a marketing strategy that involves print, out-of-home, television, but now we're integrating digital media, which you wouldn't have done 10 to 15 years ago. The mix is, I guess the digital aspect of it is vital to the whole marketing mix. And because social media has skyrocketed over the years, successful marketers now have to actually integrate social media marketing into their full plan. And on top of that, integrate social media content with your marketing pillars and your marketing plan, which we do successfully now with NKPR.
Totally.
Which would not have been done 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and obviously the last 2 years were a very different time, but it has in likelihood adjusted consumer behavior more on a permanent level. That the curbside pickup may still exist. I think more of our restaurants may continue doing allowing for takeout and delivery if they can manage it, and you may see more online shopping, but see, people still want the experience to go in and try an outfit on, and whether it's a day's experience like Rick's talking about, is you've gone to get your hair done, you're going for lunch, and then you're shopping. So that can't all be replaced by a digital format by any means. You won't get that same experience. So
no, but you pivoted so well during COVID. Because you did, I thought the storytelling on digital was incredible. Your support for the businesses was so impactful and meaningful. They felt it. You really helped them get through that challenging time. And we still were able to do some great events. Tell me about some of your greatest memories over the last 15 years with some of the events that we've done.
You go first.
Well, I love attending the NKPR annual TIFF soiree.
That's fun, yeah.
as a very fun event during the year. But we've had some really successful events over the years, and what would come to mind is Sante Bloor-Yorkville Wine Festival, which was a little bit of a challenge for all of us, but it was.
That's how we pulled it that was through. Our first big event that we did with you guys.
Yeah,
I remember that.
They were wondering what we'd done to them.
Yeah.
What did they sign up for?
I mean, I love the holiday event. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah, Holiday Magic is incredible with the Canadian artists that we managed to solidify for our headliner. And I think this year we were the only event in Toronto with a street closure and a concert with Kaisa performing for Holiday Magic, which was a great success for us. And even with Ice Fest, when we started working together, it was maybe 5,000 people, and now in the last year that we produced it, it was upwards of 40,000 people, to working with developing a new event like Beautylicious. And that was a big success for our spas and salons over the years. And NKPR has done a great job of keeping us top of mind during TIFF to the Yorkville Exotic Car Show. It started very small on Cumberland and Yorkville Avenue with 3,000 or 4,000 people, and we're upwards of 100,000 people on Bloor Street for Father's Day. And I think that it always felt like a team, and I think NKPR has been a big part of the success of all of our events, and we thank you for that.
Well, I have to say, you guys are amazing leaders, because you lead the way. And you're open to doing new things.
Oh, you have to be.
You have to be.
You have to be able to move and change, and that's why we've all grown together over the last 15 years. It's not by sitting still, it's by adopting new stuff as it comes along. You can't sit back and wait for it to drop in your lap. You're going to have to experiment and see what works.
We talked a little bit before we started the podcast about so many young people think that the way to progress in their career is to move around. Spend a year here, 2 years there, and they think that that's how they'll progress. But, it's interesting because both of you have been with the BIA for, Rick for 15 years, Briar, how? 21. We've been with you for 15. A lot of our team has been with you for a long time. What advice would you give to young people today? Because you think about our relationship, and it's longevity and growing together that has actually contributed to the success of the neighborhood. And the support of the retailers. What advice would you give?
Well, to the point that if people feel that they have to advance by staying only a couple years at a place, it's something as an employer that I would strongly disagree with. I think you need to show your commitment. And it's a two-way street, of course. The employer has to do the same in working with the staff member and ensuring that they're growing and learning along the way. But many of our positions, people are still learning stuff each day because our organization's been around since the mid-'80s. Obviously, Yorkville itself is over 150 years old. So there's a lot of history attached to how our organization came about, how it's evolved. And as I said, each time we're growing with you from digital and social media, And you can't learn all that in a couple of years. And as somebody who reviews a lot of resumes, if I see that, and I call them job hoppers, if I see somebody that has not set about making a commitment to a particular job or company, I tend to look over them. I would like somebody that wants to join our team and be committed and learn the job from start to finish. And honestly, Rick was a great example because he asked at the time, well, is there advancement in this? And I said, there'll be an advancement within the position itself, and it'll be what you make of it.
So true.
He's come such a long way, even from his title. Now he's our director of marketing, and he's hands-on and runs the show. Versus where he started out, not sure of this and that, and he's learned and he's grown in the position. And he's been rewarded for that, and we've been rewarded for that. So it's not always a good thing to jump around. I think.
And now we have a team of at NKPR and our marketing agency as well, which really didn't exist in the beginning. There was maybe one person, but now we have full teams of people that are bring different elements to the table for each of those segments of our business.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with fresh ideas coming in, but at the same time, knowing and understanding the background and knowing the history can go a long way.
For sure. It's so true what you're saying. An opportunity is whatever you make of it. I remember having a young girl work for me, and she had worked for me maybe for a year, and she's like, I think I'm going to move to another opportunity because I just feel like I've learned everything I could possibly learn here. And I was like, you're right. It's time to move on. Because if you think that that's the case, so then that's part of the problem. But I think it's, the opportunities are whatever, you really make them. What do you think we've learned together? If you think about the past 15 years, what do you think that's been?
Wine festivals aren't a good event.
I don't know. I don't know. I mentioned the teams of people that we work with, and I think pulling together an A team was essential to our success. We definitely have an A team for our PR and social media and for our events, and we've learned that and grown over the years together. I still have. I pretty well have built my career on relationships and partnerships, and I still work with people that I have contacts with from the music industry and from the spirit and wine industry as advisors, and they participate in our events wherever they can. I get my bands from the agents I used to work with, for example. So relationships and long-term partnerships are very important. Yeah, a
lot of the radio partnerships that you bring to the table are because of all the relationships that you had before you came to Bloor-Yorkville. That's absolutely true. I think relationships are key. We talk about this quite a bit on the podcast, that it's the people that come into your life aren't necessarily a choice. They come into your life. The people you keep in your life are your choice. And you need to sort of remember, like the people you surround yourself with are really important to you. And so think about why that is. And it's because, they nourish you, nurture you, you grow together, and you have to really value that. I'm just a big believer in relationships. I would not be in business for 20 years if it weren't for, if it weren't for so many people that have truly contributed to giving us the opportunity and the privilege to be here right now. So I'm very, very grateful for that. I always end the podcast with this question, and you guys don't know about it, but I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
What's the one thing that you've always wanted to ask, the one question you've always wanted to ask me but never asked me, and you want to know about me that you don't know about me? And I've had some funny ones. I've had, how many times have you been married? I've had, very funny ones.
Oh, boy.
What's my favorite food? But then I've also had more serious ones about my career. So what would that be?
Well, you already told. I was always inquisitive about the wearing of black, but you've explained that one. So I get that.
Maybe your love for the film festival, because you connect your annual soiree to that, and where did that come from?
I love that question, and no one's ever asked me that. So when I lived in New York, I worked with HBO doing a lot of the junkets, and so I understood film, And then when I moved back to Toronto, one of my first clients was Visa Canada, leveraging their film festival sponsorships across Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. So I started to understand how the working of a festival and the importance of a festival for young filmmakers. And if you think about the Toronto Film Festival, that's how it started. It was really about it was more indie films that would sort of get into the Toronto Film Festival.
I think it was called Festival of Festivals in the beginning.
Like back then.
Yeah, it was started in Yorkville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I worked with Liberty Entertainment Group, and they had the majority of the events. And if you remember back then, which is probably about 25, 28 years ago, celebrities used to be in town for like a full week.
Exactly.
They'd have like a film in the festival, they'd go to the different events, they'd hang out. They loved Toronto. And so my love for the meaning of what the festival meant, certainly to filmmakers, but what it meant for our city. I always felt that energy that Toronto would turn into like Hollywood North, for that 10-day, 12-day span. And I mean, that's going back 25, 28 years ago, and it sort of stayed, it stuck with me. And so I always look forward to Labor Day weekend. We're working our butts off during that weekend, but you can really feel the energy of the city change. And unfortunately, we haven't felt that the last couple of years, but we're back this year. And I cannot wait, because you're going to see the restaurants busy. You're going to see it all. And it's time. Like, we live in one of the best cities in the world. We're so lucky. And to be able to have one of the largest film festivals in the world here in Toronto is, I think, really sort of a privilege and an honor for us locals.
Yeah. So if I could ask a question, and I'm thinking maybe some people listening would be interested in hearing, what are qualities that you look for in your staff searches for people joining your team? What kind of things, what kind of qualities?
It's a great question. I look for the soft skills, someone that's kind, someone that is a team player, someone that is a good human. I actually look for what do they do when they're not working. So what are their philanthropic interests, just interests outside of work. And obviously I care about the skill set that we're hiring for, certainly. And I, like you, I tend to not interview someone that's hopped around. Loyalty to me is a really big thing.
Yeah.
And so I do look at that, because I feel like if they've hopped around, they're going to hop around from here too. And so that's important. But I feel like I can teach someone a skill set, but I can't teach them to be a good human.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you think about NKPR, it's so collaborative. Everyone's helping each other. And to me, that's really important. So I usually can tell within the first 3 or 4 months if that's not there.
Yeah.
And I can usually tell when I interview them if it's not there.
Right.
And so those are the qualities I really look for. They're important. It's a soft skill you can't teach.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So those are great questions.
Yeah.
Rick, Briar, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for being part of our 20-year journey.
My pleasure, Natasha.
Yay.
It's
Thanks
great.
very much.
Keep up the great work. We love it.
I always love chatting with Briar and Rick and value our 15-year partnership so much. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I always love hearing from you. Feel free to DM me at Natasha NKPR, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review and rating. Until next time.